Hey y'all, welcome to a video about which I am very, very excited. I have been wanting to film this for a long time, and I actually had a little seed of the idea floating around, and then recently got a comment on one of my videos that kind of pushed me over the edge to really do the work to make this video happen. It was a comment by Selena Lee, and this is what she wrote. She said, and the video was about something entirely different, like it wasn't about this topic, and she just dropped in and left this little gem. She said, "Can I just say, I love that you consistently wear gorgeous vintage pieces from several seasons or years ago. I'm a 20-year-old college student, so it totally inspires me to go out and find my unique forever pieces that are an investment instead of just buying and wearing whatever is on trend." I loved seeing that comment from Selena because that is what I want to be like. I'll talk about this a little bit more in the meat of the video, but I think what she was saying she's inspired to do is something that I really try to do. I don't know if I always am doing it 100%, but I love that we were able to connect about that way of thinking about fashion, and especially about that way of being led to purchase secondhand or vintage pieces. So that is what inspired me to make this video, the 5 best secondhand clothing, and there's one accessory. So it's really the 4 best secondhand clothing purchases and 1 shoe purchase ever, although I'll probably just call it something about the 5 best. If this is your first time to my channel, welcome. I'm so glad that you are here. I'm Hannah, and I absolutely love beautiful things, but that love has gotten me into trouble in the past. The love of beautiful things can lead to overconsumption and can lead to overspending. So I try to keep a balance in my life, and that's a large part of what I talk about here on my channel. If that kind of balanced content sounds good to you, I hope you'll subscribe. Now, let's go ahead and get into the meat of this video. What I'm trying to talk about with this video is this form of inspiration, this way of conceiving of one's wardrobe and one's way of owning and wearing beautiful clothing, or, clothing that is a natural extension of the way you want to move through the world, what makes you happy, what makes you feel like you're, being yourself for yourself. All of the reasons that we gravitate towards certain items of clothing, using this idea of slowly collecting your forever pieces and thinking outside the box of trends, and especially the box of fast fashion, in order to slowly build that core collection of your forever pieces. I just want to make a video that kind of like dwells in that, and maybe by sharing the pieces that I have that I feel like have been the most successful execution of that task, maybe by sharing them and talking about them and the process by which I arrived at owning them, I can inspire you. And also, I'd love to hear your comments about it. And I think more than anything, I'm hoping to inspire myself to remind myself and reinforce for myself this philosophy when it comes to collecting items of clothing and accessories. Now, without further ado, the first piece. So I have the piece here, and I'm going in chronological order. So of all of the pieces I have to talk to you about today, this is the one that I've had for the longest. It's the one that I bought first. This is a vintage piece. I think it's the only truly vintage piece of clothing, in that it is from another era. I believe that it was designed and sewn and sold originally as a new piece probably before I was even born. I'm not exactly sure when it's from. It doesn't have a tag. It had a tag, but it didn't have the tag when I purchased it, so I don't even know the brand. Gosh, over 10 years ago at this point. I guess it was in 2008. Yes, that is now 12 years ago. In 2008, I had a brief stint as a member of an avant-garde theater company. And I'm not going to tell the whole story now. Maybe I'll tell it in a Get Ready With Me at some point. But it was a Brooklyn-based theater company. And I hopped on a tour that they were doing in Europe. So there was about a month during which we as a company were developing this extremely avant-garde play. I'll try to put, I think that there is a YouTube clip of part of the play like out there floating around. If I can find that, I'll put it down below, and then you can like click through and read about the company and like see the clip from the play if you're interested. So we developed the play for a while, and then we toured around mostly Belgium, but also some in Amsterdam. And when we were in, I guess it was probably the first theater. I think it was the Antwerp theater. So I think it was when we were in Antwerp. And so we were there in the theater, we were working, we were putting on the show, and there was a vintage clothing shop on the same street as the theater. And I walked by one day and I saw this in the window on the mannequin, and I just walked right in and I was like, can I try on that dress? I put it on and then I just bought it, and then I walked out with it. It was like, it was not a labor intensive decision. It wasn't something that stretched out over the course of days. I think it helped that it wasn't that expensive. I want to say it was something like 20 euros. Like it wasn't, you know, something that I had to agonize over. If it had been 100, I might have like gone back and forth a couple of times, but it was a no-brainer. It was a fantastic souvenir at the time. And then it ended up being one of the most enduring pieces. It has ended up being one of the most enduring pieces in my wardrobe ever. Let's talk about why. I think that maybe that's what I should do for each piece. Talk about why I identified it as something that would work for me, and then why I feel like it has lasted in my wardrobe, why I feel like it has stayed and made it to this video, and then what we can take from that information to talk about like our actions going forward as we maybe try to make decisions around purchasing secondhand clothing. So I think that one of the reasons that this has endured, that it's become such a classic in my wardrobe, is that gosh, I was about to say it's relatively conservative, but that's not what I mean. I think what I mean is that its power doesn't come from the way that it shows off the body. I do like the way that my body looks in this. Like I do feel like you can get a sense of my shape, and I don't feel like I'm wearing a sack when I wear it. That's one of the nice things about actual vintage garments, is that they tended to be tailored in a way that was like a little bit more designed to gently enhance the shape of the form, right? So it has that quality. And so I'm not saying that when I wear it, I feel like I'm sort of like downplaying my shape, or even like I'm downplaying my sexuality. But what I will say about it is that there's a lot of skin coverage, right? It's like a high neck dress, it's a long sleeve dress, and it comes down over the knees. So what that means for it is that it suits a great many social situations. Like there's really no event to which it would be like improper to wear this. And it also suits a great many moods. So when I'm really like, you know, say I've like broken out all over my chest, which is something that happened to me recently for a couple of months, I could still wear this because it covers that part of my body. And it also comes down below the knees. So if I were going to an event to which I wouldn't want to wear a short skirt, you know, wouldn't want to show any thigh, I could still wear this. That also makes it very weather versatile, because it doesn't look weird with tights and boots, or with boots without tights. I feel like it spans all of the seasons except for the hottest of the hot, because even though it's long sleeved and high necked, it's a relatively lightweight fabric. And then I feel like it has this combination of being statement and understated. So the way in which it's statement is that it's got these lurex threads running through it. It's also got some ruffles, like it's a little bit of a feminine statement, but also a little bit of like professional feminine in terms of the silhouette. And it's also navy blue instead of being black. Navy blue is a statement color, but it's got a little bit more presence. It stands out a little bit more from the background than it would if it were black, but were the same in all other ways. So in that way, it's got a little bit of like a wink, nudge, nudge to the taste. Like the taste of it is a little bit of a wink, wink. Like there's a little bit of fun in it, but it's not loud. It's not a loud color. It's not on trend. Like it's not evocative of any really strong, dramatic, standout trend from any time over the past 10 years. So it's never going to look dated. It's never going to look like you bought it when it was on trend and then it went out of style. It's also not fussy. It works with basically any undergarments that I might have. And like I said before, it could work with tights or without tights. And lastly, it occurs to me to say about this that I feel like it has a really interesting balance of feminine and masculine energies, which is something that I really appreciate in clothing. So it does have a little bit of like a buttoned up and tailored sensibility. And when I feel it, when I wear it, I feel a little bit more like the masculine side of my character is is like on show, or like there's like a little bit of stiffness in my spine in a way that gives me like a solidity and strength when I'm in the room or when I'm sitting at dinner. I often wore this to literary events when I was in graduate school for poetry because I felt like it had that slightly academic, again, like a little bit more tailored quality, a little bit more masculine quality. And we all know that masculinity is like very highly valued in an academic setting in both men and women and in people of all genders. A lot of my clothing isn't that way. Like I've got a lot of clothing that is much more fluid and doesn't have that tailored sensibility. So this has that, but it also has an undeniably feminine aspect, right? It has these ruffles, it's got these lurex threads in it. And I think that that's another reason why it has endured so long in my wardrobe. I'm not a person who holds on to even to clothing for sentimental reasons. So the fact that I bought this in Belgium when I was part of an avant-garde theater company in my youth would not be a thing that would cause me to hold on to it, even though it was like my souvenir from that time. And I wore it like at the opening night party at the big theater festival, and I have like all these great memories attached to it. Even though that's true, if it didn't have all of these other qualities that make it like an extraordinary standout piece for me, I wouldn't have kept it. I would have decluttered it. Okay, this next piece, again, we're going in chronological order. This is probably the most, yeah, like the most glamorous and maybe like the number one. Like if I had to pick a number one, you'll see when you see it why I'm saying that. So this comes from a couple of years later. So I was on tour with this theater company, and then I did some other things, and then I ended up living in Portland, Oregon, because I had met Joe and he already lived there and I wanted to be with him. So I moved there. It was probably 5 or 6 years. I lived in Portland for many years. It was probably let's say 5 years after the purchase of this dress in Belgium that I was in Portland. I was in a Crossroads, which is like a chain of secondhand clothing stores where you can take your clothes and sell them or trade them in. And I think a lot of you guys know what Crossroads, it's like a Buffalo Exchange, right? I saw this dress hanging on the wall. And this is one where you definitely will not be able to see the silhouette of the dress by me holding it up. Like it looks super weird, I think, right here, but I'll be rolling the B-roll footage intermittently, so you'll be able to see how incredibly exquisite it is. So this is a designer dress. It's from the brand Chloe. And that's a brand, I don't know as much about designers as Angelica does, for example. Like I'm not a person who's up here like knowing everything and like following all of the runway designers every season and all of this stuff. But I have had a sense for as long as I've sort of known about the top designers that Chloe is a brand that I just vibe with. So when I saw that this was a Chloe dress, and it was at an amazing price. It was like, for a Chloe dress, I mean, it was like $50 or something. New as like a Chloe piece, a silk cocktail dress, basically. It was probably hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of dollars. I can only imagine, right? So I saw that and I was just like, wow. But of course, if it weren't my style, I wouldn't have been interested in it just because it's Chloe. I think the thing that got me really excited about it is that it's green, which is a color that I'm not as into these days. I think that it's because for all of my life, people have been like, you should wear green. Like green looks so great on redheads and green looks great with your pale skin and your eyes, and they're not wrong, but I feel like often there's like a first wave in your youth of like wearing your colors or wearing like the things that traditionally look great on you, or that traditional wisdom says like that's your palette. And at least for me, because I'm a person who likes to experiment and likes for things to feel fresh, I feel like I outgrew that phase, and all of the earth tones that I used to wear and feel my best in when I was younger, now they just feel like passe to me, and I'm more interested in like thinking outside of that box. But at the time I was like, oh my gosh, it's pale green silk. It's like this heavy silk satin. It's got these amazing beaded straps on it and these beaded ropes that go around it. And again, it's like that lovely length. It's not too short, which is, often a problem for me because I'm quite tall, but it covers my knees. And it's like a lot of chest exposure and back exposure, which I really, really like. There's a little bit more to the story with this one because at the time, Joe was making these silent films about tango in the tango community. And so I was keeping an eye out for dresses that we could use for the film. So things that would look somewhat silent film era appropriate and that we could put the actresses in for the films because it was helping with the costuming for those films. So I saw this and I was like, wow, that would actually be perfect for our friend Julene to wear in her role as Natasha in the Tango Silent films. And I'll link them down below. You can watch them and you can see Julene in this dress in one of the films. So I saw it and I was like, it would be perfect for that. But then I was like, but there's no way that I'm not gonna like own that dress at the end of this. I was like, I'm buying it for myself and then we can use it for Tango Silent films and then it will be mine forevermore. So the first thing that happened with this was that Julene wore it to play Natasha in the Tango Silent films. And then it became mine forevermore. And then I proceeded to wear it to all of the like most formal occasions that I've enjoyed going to over the rest of my life from then until now. So I wore it to Julia and Oliver's wedding. I wore it to one of my own big bash birthday party. I think it was probably my 30th birthday party in Ann Arbor. I think I've worn it to the theater. I've worn it to like a formal dinner. To me, it's just like that dress. And I feel like it still hasn't seen its last party. I mean, I still feel like it's going to be the dress at an event more times, like maybe another wedding or two, maybe like another birthday or dinner or two. Like it's so, so special. And I love that it has that ineffable quality of being incredibly beautifully designed that comes from, the mind and the talent of a really amazing designer or design team like the one at Chloe. Like it's a Chloe dress and it's really, really special. But that's the kind of thing that I would never be able to buy full price. Like I'm not over here saving to like pick a Chloe dress from Nordstrom's or from the Chloe website and buy it. Like that's not my life. So what's the takeaway from this one? Why has it endured? I think it has endured because it's checks all of my boxes, like it for the kind of event for which I've worn it. Like it's so luxe and special, but it's also kind of unique. Like it's way beyond like what a little black dress would do for a person, where it's like I've worn it 100 times because it works with everything and it's so innocuous and it makes me feel great and it's so sharp. It's way beyond that because it's not that. It has a lot of personality. It's very memorable. But I think that it again has like this balance of opposites between, in this case, maybe effortfulness and effortlessness. It's effortful in that if you're wearing this dress, you've made a bit of an effort. Like you've dressed up, you've picked your green silk Chloe dress and you've put it on for the event. And also it's a bit revealing. So you definitely have to kind of like make sure that you're ready to wear it. Like sometimes I've had to put a little bit of tape so that it doesn't slide around. It requires a shoe of a certain level of fanciness. It's also hard to wear this with a black shoe, so it requires that you have like a fancy shoe that is, I think I've worn like a silver glitter shoe with it. I think I've worn like a nude shoe with it. So it requires a little something, you know what I mean? I think that it lends itself to putting one's hair up, to being quite polished. So when you wear it, you've made an effort, like it's that dress. But because you can't really wear a bunch of infrastructure with it, like no bra, it has to have just the tiniest little thong panty because it's kind of like a clingy silk. There is this kind of like nudity, like implication of you're like naked under it, you know what I mean? And it's very drapey and like these ropes sort of like drape and fall along the body, and these straps are made out of this like beaded rope that just feels like not a hefty garment. And there's this sense of casual dressing or like effortlessness around it. And I really like that for a formal occasion. If I'm at a formal occasion, a formal dinner, one that would require a dress like this, I really like there to be something about the dress that makes me feel kind of free. And there's like something about the quality of the construction that makes it feel like I didn't try too hard. I just kind of put on this dress. So I think that that's like the the thing that has caused this one to like stay and stay and stay and be worn to event after event after event. So item number 3 is very different in a number of ways from everything else I'm talking about today, but it's also really different from the 2 pieces that I've shown you so far. Those 2 pieces had something really significant in common, which is that they're both dresses that I stumbled across while browsing. So I saw one in the window while I was walking down the street. I saw the other hanging up on the wall of this shop when I was like in the shop browsing. And these shoes I purchased online. I got them from eBay. And I think it will be really useful to talk about why I think these shoes were such a good buy and why they have endured in my wardrobe, because they were an online purchase. And online shopping, especially secondhand shopping online, comes with its whole own set of questions and potential struggles. How do you buy shoes? Secondhand shoes. And secondhand in this case doesn't mean I think that they'd gotten like a ton of wear. I don't think someone had like gotten them, owned them, and worn them a bunch of times and then resold them. I think someone had gotten them and then never worn them. So, or maybe worn them once, but they weren't like broken in, they weren't worn when I got them. I actually try not to buy shoes that have been like worn by someone else's foot for a protracted period of time, because your foot kind of like shapes and changes the shoes that you wear. And I am a dancer. I mean, I'm a tango dancer, and foot health is really important to me because I've like really done a number on my feet with dancing in stiletto shoes, which is, you know, when I'm in the following role in tango, I'm usually wearing stiletto shoes. So I don't want to take someone else's shoes that have like molded to the shape of their foot and then wear them. That could potentially be not healthy for my feet. So these are from the brand Eric Michael. And I think I have told this story. Weirdly, I think I've told this story before on my channel, but I'd never heard of the brand before. And I actually was browsing in a secondhand clothing store in Portland, Oregon, after I had lived there, you know, even longer. It was a couple years after I had purchased that green silk Chloe dress. And there was a pair of clog shoes that looked kind of interesting and were in my size, and they were by this brand, Eric Michael. I tried them on. They did fit, but they weren't quite my style, and they were also more expensive than what I was like willing to pay for shoes like that. I think they were like $75 or something. Definitely not as much as these shoes cost new, because I think Eric Michael is kind of an expensive brand. But I put them on and I was like, you know, they don't look good to me. I'm not going to buy them. They're too expensive. But they were so comfortable. They were like shockingly comfortable, and they had a nice wedge with a nice heel. And I loved the feeling of having some extra height from my shoes, but having my feet feel so comfortable. I was like, I could run a mile in these and it would be totally fine. So I was like, what's going on with this brand? And the woman who was working the counter at the shop was like, yeah, they make incredibly comfortable platform and heel shoes and wedges. It's like, that's the thing they're known for. So instead of agonizing over whether or not I should buy that pair of shoes, that pair of secondhand shoes, instead of tricking myself into thinking that because they were so comfortable that was like a once in a lifetime opportunity and that I should get them, I left them at the store. I went home and I looked up Eric Michael on eBay. And I looked around until I found a different pair of shoes that was more my style, but from the same brand that had that same sort of footbed and that same kind of heel. And I think this is key, I had just been trying on a pair of shoes by this brand at the store, so I knew what size I was. I'm usually a 39 in European sizing, and these are a 40. And I believe that the clogs that I had tried on in the secondhand shop had been a size 40. So I filed it away. I was like, okay, I'm actually a 40 in this brand. So when I went to look them up, I knew my size. And I think that that's really important when buying secondhand clothing online, but especially shoes, because sizing can vary so widely in shoe brands. So it was a successful purchase because I had all of the information that I needed. I was able to like check off all the boxes about them, even though I had just like randomly found them on eBay. On top of that, they were only $20. So it was like an amazing, amazing buy. Why have they lasted so long in my collection, and why do I consider them to be one of the top 5 garments or you know, accessories or things that I've purchased secondhand that I still own? It's because of their comfort and their versatility. So these shoes do look really great with like a cute dress, a sundress, a maxi dress. They're like really great, just like summer sandals for doing anything. And so when I'm trying to look kind of cute and put together, when I'm wearing dresses, or when I want to enhance my outfit with like heels of some kind, even though these are kind of like chunky, they work for that. But they can also be the thing that makes a super ho-hum or basic outfit a little bit more summery, a little bit more like something you'd wear out, that you wear to a meal, that you wear to like a day out. And then the other thing is simply the comfort. They are just extraordinarily comfortable. So to have a shoe that can be like the finishing piece that makes an outfit pop, and to have it be one that I can walk and walk and walk in, has meant that these have like been the saving grace of many an outfit on many an occasion. And I actually think that that's the lesson when it comes to shoe purchases in general. That I think that often we have our comfortable shoes and we have our cute shoes. And I think that one of the best things that I've ever done for myself was to acquire a pair of shoes that is really cute and also really comfortable. Like, it's more comfortable than some of my shoes that are like less cute. You know what I mean? And I think that it would be foolish for me at this point in my life, with me trying to keep my collection of clothing and accessories sort of, relatively edited and something where I can wear things over and over and over again. It would be foolish for me to bloat my shoe collection with a bunch of cute shoes that aren't comfortable. Okay, next up, moving along the Hannah Louise Poston timeline. Towards the end of the time that we lived in Michigan, so those shoes were, I was talking about still living in Portland, right? So we lived in Portland, then I moved to Michigan to get my master's degree in creative writing at the University of Michigan. And while I was there, I took several trips to Los Angeles to visit friends, to come to tango festivals, and also ultimately to figure out where we were going to live, because our plan was to move here to Los Angeles after I graduated from graduate school. On one of those trips to Los Angeles, I was in a designer resale shop and I found these pants. These pants are from a small brand called Lover. And I think that Lover primarily makes denim. I actually think it's a denim brand, and then this is just like a foray into pants that they made one season. And then these pants ended up like in this designer resale shop, and they were an amazing buy for me simply because they are high-waisted pants that fit me. And I have an incredibly long waist, like from like my crotch basically to my belly button. It's like twice as long as it is on many people. So for a pair of pants to sit on my natural waist, it's just very, very unusual. A lot of high-waisted pants, either they don't come up high enough on my waist to be comfortable to look high-waisted on me, or I'm able to sit them on my high waist, but then I can't really like sit down in them without them like just going up my butt basically. So it was just really exciting when I found these and I tried them on. This is the rise. It's like really long, right? And this is perfect for me. It's like a 14 or 15-inch rise. Knowing how hard it is for me to find just pants that I feel good in general, but especially knowing how hard it is for me to find tailored high-waisted pants that are high enough waisted for me and that also long enough in the leg. It was just a no-brainer. Like, this is like my version of a really smart investment piece when secondhand shopping. So I guess the moral with these pants is that sometimes when you leave the mall, like leave H&M and Zara and all of that off the rack ready to wear stuff, and explore designer pieces that you can afford because they're on consignment or they're secondhand in some way, thrift shops. Sometimes if you give yourself the time and you're patient with yourself and you do the work of combing through a couple of different shops like that, the reward can sometimes be a much better fit. If I found this exact same pant, for example, at H&M, it just wouldn't fit me the same. And because it is designer and, very high quality, made of really high quality fabric, it used to be really expensive, but it's not really expensive anymore because I'm buying it secondhand. But because it has that history, because that's where it came from, it has something about it. A lot of times it's the fabric, right? The quality of the craftsmanship. And in this case, it's also the actual design, like the actual fit. It has something about it that you'd never be able to find in a fast fashion shop. If you've been counting, then you will know that we've arrived at number 5. And if you've been guessing, then you've probably guessed what the 5th item is. And it's interesting, this 5th one It's different from the clothing, right? Because all of those other clothing items are things that I, again, stumbled across, like was lucky and stumbled across when I was out poking around in consignment shops and thrift shops. And that kind of also happened with the shoes, because even though I didn't get those shoes in a consignment shop, it was a pair of shoes that I did come across in a consignment shop that caused me to then go and find like a more ideal version of that shoe online and to buy it on eBay. But this last thing is one that I actually found online, kind of because I was looking around wanting a really special piece from this brand that I had become a fan of. The brand, as many of you have probably guessed, is Ulla Johnson. So this is a situation in which I feel like I took what I had learned about the way in which you can maybe access a piece that is of more enduring quality or of a more extreme design, like a design that is more statement and braver than you usually find in fast fashion shops, that you can have access to that if you're willing to buy a piece secondhand. So I'd taken what I'd learned from experiences like I had with the pants, where I was like, someone owned these before, but I could never afford to get pants this perfect for me new. I took that and I applied it kind of from the ground up with the process of buying this blouse, which is the last thing on my list. I'd admired Ulla Johnson from afar for a long time. I had often seen her pieces new in shops and I couldn't afford them. I mean, the blouses are start at like $550 and the dresses start at like $750. So I'd always thought, maybe one day if I become wealthy, I can like buy Ulla Johnson, because I really love the flair, the drama. I really love that there's kind of like this maybe like prairie vibe and this specific kind of femininity, but it's grounded in what feels like a masculine boldness with the silhouettes. And I just like the way she strikes that balance. So I was like, man, I would really love to have an Ulla Johnson piece. And during my first year of budgeting, after my no-buy year, I was thinking about what it would feel like to save up my budget for a month or two and then spend it all in one place on something really special. And then thinking about that, I was like, maybe I could have an Ulla Johnson piece if I did that with my budget and then applied it toward a secondhand Ulla Johnson piece. So I literally set out to find it. I was like, there's something really special for me out there, that's something that I wouldn't be able to afford if it were new. And I also wouldn't be able to afford it if I didn't save my budget up for a couple of months. But I've saved my budget, or I was about to save my budget. And so I was like, I'm going to go out and see if I can find it on the internet. So I started searching eBay and Poshmark for Ulla Johnson, and I found this now iconic blouse. And it's everything that I just described about what I love about Ulla Johnson, right? It's kind of got this prairie feeling because it's an eyelet lace, but that could be too, it could be too cheesy. Like if you went all the way in that direction, if you didn't balance it out with something shocking, it wouldn't be to my taste. But that is counteracted by the fact that it's bright fuchsia, the fact that it has these giant puffed sleeves. And I feel like conversely, the fact that it's bright fuchsia and that it has these giant puffed sleeves is kind of counteracted or balanced by the fact that it's an eyelet lace. So it's again this thing of like the juxtaposition of opposites that balance everything, that it keeps it from being too much one thing. And, I talked at length about this when I first bought it, but quickly I'll just recap. It's 100% cotton. It's something that I can wash at home. It's breathable. It's like bold and editorial, but it's also got the sensual side because it's a little bit sheer. It's also not too hot, but it's also not too revealing. So it's, got all of these things. I'll try to remember to link the video in which I talked about it after I first bought it, so you can hear me go on at length about it if that's what you really want to be doing with your life. Everyone knows this is like one of my favorite pieces that I've ever had. I love how intentional the process was. I really set out to spend my budget on something and to keep myself from spending it from like nickel and diming myself on a bunch of other little things. And I found something so incredible and so perfect that it 100% earned the amount of my budget that I had to save to spend on this. And I think that this might be the most expensive of all of these things. It was, I think, a little over $200. Like, it wasn't cheap. It was in pristine condition, although it was pre-owned. I bought it from a woman who was reselling some of her clothing through Poshmark and eBay. It was really an investment, and so I had to be really, really sure that it would basically be perfect for me for the rest of my life. And who knows what will happen? Like that might not end up being true, but I still feel like it probably is going to be true based on the experience that I've had and all the things I've learned as I have purchased perfect secondhand things here and there over the years. All right, I'm really running out of steam. I always fool myself into thinking that videos like this are gonna be like quick and easy and it'll be like quippy and fun. I'll just be like, here it is and here's how I feel. And then when I get started talking about stuff like this, I just go on and on. So I already know this is gonna be a bear to edit. I said that I was gonna recap at the end, and I'm like very out of steam and I feel like we've been talking for a really, really long time. And I also feel like I kind of recapped as I went, like I talked about each thing as I went. So instead of recapping, what I'm going to do is hand it over to you and be like, what do you think? Like in the comments, tell me, was this interesting? What's the takeaway for you? Like, what were you expecting me to say at the end when I like brought it all together and delivered my final speech? Like, what do you feel like this has said to you and done for us as a community? And if you feel like sharing, I would love to know what you feel like is the best ever purchase of secondhand clothing or an accessory or, shoes or a bag or something that you've ever made, or even your top 5 if you're up for it. And also here at the end, I want to thank Selena. Thank you for the beautiful comment that you left on my other video that inspired me to go ahead and film this one. It's been fun to share this stuff with you, and I'm hoping that there will be some more fashion content coming soon. Thank you all for being here, for watching this video. Thank you for engaging in the comments, and don't forget to take extra good care of yourself this week so that you can be the most effective version of yourself as you do your work in the world.